There's that apple.
We are just about going live.
We are.
Hello, Linda.
Hello, Matthew. How are you on this fine Thursday?
Doing awesome. Thank you very much. Happened to my transcriptions. We are just about going live. Did you forget to turn off your speakers?
Yes, I know.
Well, welcome everybody to this week's QB Community Live. We've got a whole bunch of stuff in store for you for the day. And yes, we've got a whole bunch of questions that you've kind of put together for us, right, Linda?
Yes, we've got quite a few questions, so let's dive in because we don't have a lot of time.
Okay, let's go. Oops. So we will grab our I swear everything changed like right at the last second or so. Oh, it's because of the live stream. It took over the browser. That's why.
Oh,
Now I get it.
You know,
So,
it gets slow to reach.
anyways, back to what we were trying to talk about. So we should be. Are you now seeing the QuickBooks, right?
I am seeing the QuickBooks.
Okay. Hey, it keeps getting better and better every time. So we're going to get started now. Now we should be seeing the presentation to where we can go through all of our different questions. So our first question for this week is, does QBO Simple Start not allow any form of customization, such as removing the headers and footers, etc., for financial reports? I know Simple Start is limited to 20 plus reports and none of Intuit supporting articles and pricing details on the website, nor the breakdown version sent to us accountants state that we can't customize financial reports in QBO Simple Start. I don't think I've really ever used Simple Start, so I don't know.
Yeah, actually, if you look right there on the screen, I did try it, and there's nothing when you go into QuickBooks Online in the Simple Start file. I had to find one. I have like one. And when you go into the Simple Start file, when you go to customize, that's all you see. There's nothing there.
Other Now, part of Simple Start stuff, like I know that they're changing up some of the functionality of other things in the offerings, right? So we'll know more about that in the near future or something.
Yeah, what they're doing is they're taking the amount of different offerings. So it's like 5 before, so they're shrinking it down to 3. So they kind of hid Simple Start and they hid QuickBooks Self-Employed. But if you want either one of those, you have to call to get it. So it's kind of making it harder to get those two things.
Awesome, which actually was the next slide, kind of what we were talking about here, right? So like you just said, they're making some changes that are coming up, and just be aware of that as you're talking about it. Otherwise, I guess you'd have to reach out, like you said.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. East Coast, West Coast. Have any of you tried to work with an app vendor and had a problem because they were on the West Coast and you're on the East Coast, and the time difference makes a difference? I have a new e-commerce client that I wanted to connect with Agility, and the client is a bit apprehensive how it works. Wants to talk to them at 9:30 in the morning Eastern time. Yeah, right. They won't do that early. They're willing to let us walk away. Really? Is there another app that anyone knows of that would work like them? So, as an app person, the likelihood of getting me on a call at 6:30 in the morning is not likely.
That's actually not true, because you're usually still awake by 6:30 when I get up. So that's actually not true. But it's the same. We deal with this on a daily basis. Yeah. Like I'm like, okay, gotta go to bed, and it's still light out where you are. So it's kind of weird. Like you'll be walking the dogs and you're out in the daylight, and it's hard for my brain to even kind of fathom that there's just so much been dark for hours where I am. But yeah, if you're an app developer, I would think it'd be in your best interest to kind of make sure that if you're on the East Coast that you can be open.
If you're on the West Coast, because it's usually, it's when we're on the West Coast the other way. You East Coasters are stubborn about this stuff.
Mhm.
Ledger, when I was working with LedgerSync all the time, that was one of the things that they always tried to do is have somebody that was up and at it first thing in the morning because, getting phone calls, right first thing, you need to be able to help answer them as much as possible.
Your mom says you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning East Coast time too.
Yeah, pretty much. That's usually about when I go to bed.
Mhm.
So, next question being a while ago, Matthew was calling on everyone to urge Intuit to allow us as pro advisors to remove ourselves from client accounts. Is Intuit making any progress on that? I think they're reverting personally, but you've had better luck with this though, right?
Yes,
So
I took a screenshot so you could see it. So you actually go into your accountant, your main screen when you log in as an accountant, your client list. And we tried to do yours and it didn't work, which we're trying to figure out why. But you go on the client list, and it's not the first drop down that you see that says edit. That just says make inactive, and that's useless. You really want to make it so that the client can be deleted. So you just pick a client and go all the way and select them. And if you are just the accountant on the file and you just want to get rid of them, you can go to that edit button over there. And then this should say, what mine says is you delete permanently. And then once you do that, you're delinking yourself from that client forever. And I know all of us, especially if you've been doing this for a while, all of us have clients that we'd like to delink, especially because if you've stopped the engagement and they just won't take you off, you want to have no access to their file. You don't want them to ever call back up and say, hey, you were in my file. So that's what you would see normally, but we're trying to figure out why you couldn't do it.
well, and so we
You
thought
might
about
have
it
to
for a
do it the way
little.
your company.
Yeah, we were talking about that just a little bit earlier as to with Parkway, there's two of us, right? So it's Mike and myself. And I believe Mike was actually the initial master admin for the whole thing,
Mhm.
which means he probably has that functionality, but I don't at the firm level.
Right.
Since you are the primary and the master for your firm, you can see that easier. It's
Yes.
part of the reason, like what we're now starting to do is actually use a third email address that we will register everybody, like everything will go underneath that from now on. And then Mike and I both would just be underneath that. There's certain aspects still of that side, like the firm controller, firm setup that have to be worked out, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're in a partnership with somebody, that makes a lot of sense to set it up that way, to have like that main admin address, to just have that be for certain things that you're both sharing. So you
Yeah.
both have equal power basically.
It's the same thing comes into play actually as we're having clients share like Google Drives with us. Um, I've been in the process of now trying to get set up a G Suite account that's because we're mainly Office people, right? Microsoft Office, Office 365, but we need to have one main G Suite account. So all shares will go into that and then add ourselves on as authorized users. So everything is accessible to all teammates all the time and we don't have this variance back and forth of, hey, do you have this? Do I have that? All those kind of things.
Yeah, that's
So
just makes a lot of sense. When you start to grow your firm and you start to hire people, it's good to have that one kind of generic email. And especially if you're a firm that's, well, we always recommend that to our clients. If they
yeah,
have an AP person, AP at blah, blah, blah law firm. So that way, if, Susie leaves or is asked to leave, you can just move it on to the next person and you're not having to reinvent the wheel.
yeah, I would agree. So our next question here we've got is serious question. So how many QBO accountants I know hate QBO payroll? They say it does not work well, so they use a third party. I have to decide to use it or not for a long time client. I have them on QBO now. I'm using QB desktop payroll. Should I stay or should I go now? With QBO basically. Um, and we were talking about this earlier also in 97 and up Seth's group, where when it comes to payroll, my personal opinion is we need to remember that the payroll service that we call on, these are not like payroll professionals, payroll specialists. If you're calling for assistance or technical help, it's on the product itself, but not like they can't all know how to answer the different laws for the different states and the different scenarios and all those kind of things. And I know that that's an area where a lot of people have had a lot of frustration with different payroll companies, whether it's QBO or otherwise. That's where we have to be able to do our own due diligence on a lot of that stuff, right? To make sure that we can basically we can help our client the best way possible.
I
Um,
well, we've talked about it because, oh, by the way, this guy right here is now on the advisory board, right?
oh,
The ADP. So that's pretty cool, I think.
yeah, thank you.
But yeah, so I mean, it's really awesome. And we've been talking about payroll when we have our conversations and talking about which ones, there's no perfect, just like software, there's no perfect. But I got an invite this week to meet with my actual person that's going to be my person for QBO payroll. We had that before and it went away and now I've got another one back. I was kind of surprised at that. I didn't expect that. So it's cool that I get to meet him. So they are changing things up. I did find when I Googled best payroll providers, that's the order that they were listed in. So ADP came out number one,
Wow.
Paychex 2, Deluxe 3. I don't know what that is. If
I think
anybody
that's another Paychex offering,
is
actually.
that like the checks? I know.
No, I think it's so Paychex has a couple different offerings that they're, if you look in the fine print, it's a Paychex company. I could be wrong, but I think that is that.
Kind of
So
like QuickBooks with their IOP and their QuickBooks, and they have standalone now too, which is cool. It's very confusing. And then Gusto came in last out of the top 5, which if you talk to the accountants, that's not how they land, but it's interesting that this is how it landed on this particular website. So I don't know if it was a website by ADP or not, but yeah, it was interesting, the listing, the way it came down.
so for Parkway, like we use either QuickBooks Online Payroll or we use ADP. Those are the two primaries. If it's a very basic, or somebody said earlier, a vanilla payroll where it's like simple, cut and dry, we like to use the QBO payroll because it pulls better detailed, more information directly into the QuickBooks Online company file. And it works extremely well, like with T-sheets for some job costing, everything else.
And
However, if we, I'm
now
sorry.
T-Sheets is now part of this, part of some of the packages with QuickBooks
Oh yeah,
Online. So
yeah, the new offers. You're right. Um, so if we have anything that's a little bit more complicated or larger companies, we would love using ADP, especially anytime there's a garnishment, any kind of tax withholding, anything of that nature. If you're doing retirement at all of that stuff, we don't even mess around with QBO payroll. We go straight to ADP every single time. We can still do T-sheets with ADP and still do the job costing straight into QuickBooks Online, which is awesome that way. And again, it just gives us the two tiers because not everybody's going to fit into one scenario.
But you had a webinar today too from ADP that was interesting.
Yeah, it was about Accountants Connect, which again, I mean, I know we've talked about it a little bit here and there. It's a free resource for all of us accountants where you have a single dashboard for all your different company files. You can map the GL really nicely, and um, we really should probably just do a demo for the group of that pretty soon.
It's pretty
So,
in depth. I mean, it has a lot of bells and whistles, so it's pretty cool.
so our next one we've got here is, and actually, I think we got a question also, right, Linda, in Zoom. So, hey guys, I'm using QuickBooks Online to send invoices and process payments with a sales receipt. This is the only way I have learned how to collect money from clients, and it goes straight to my biz account. Fees are starting to get more expensive the more sales I make. It's a horrible problem to have, right?
Yeah, when I read that one, I was like, you're making more sales. It's the percentage. So the more that's great. More clients, your amount is going to go up the total, but hey, you got more clients and you're making more money. So it's all good.
Yeah, so in this kind of situation, what we're talking about, the best advice towards it, of course, is you can set it up to where they have to try to pay with ACH instead of ACH and credit card. And that will help cut down quite a bit of the expense, right? But then also there's the newer, you know more about this. I keep like forgetting to look into it. The new banking setup, or what is it again, Linda? That
the Capital Bank there, the QuickBooks
yeah.
Capital Bank, yeah.
So the new QuickBooks Capital Bank, if you go through that, they're starting to do special rates or something of that nature.
And Milio is free for ACH too, but isn't Milio now part of QuickBooks somehow? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're collaborating with them. Yes.
But
Um,
you can also, with Intuit Merchant Services, and I don't know if a lot of people know this because I didn't, with Intuit Merchant Services, you actually can pay $16 a month and get lower rates. So that's another thing. Then if you really don't like paying the price of the, having the credit cards, I personally was against it until I realized it was going to affect my cash flow. I was able to, I don't have to spend time invoicing. I do the sales receipt like he's doing. People want to pay by credit card. That's great. And then if you work with somebody like Brandon's company and be an Intuit, use a reseller, you're going to get some of that back. So it's a win-win, I think, if you do that kind of thing.
yep. So best answers being, as a quick recap, try ACH right off the bat, take away the credit card part of it. So that way you don't get stuck with that percentage. From there, you could start looking into the new methods, QuickBooks Capital with their new bank feed connection. Supposed to have special rates there. Those would be two great ways. If you're really doing high volume, you could look at a different merchant processor. But I do strongly, I guess it's for yours anyways, but before we ever switch clients away from this stuff, we always evaluate how much money they're going to save if they change the processor in comparison to how much money are they going to pay us to have to try to match these things up.
Yeah. And then also, I think with the QuickBooks Capital Bank, you still have to pay fees when you get the credit card merchant.
Okay.
You just get no fee for the instant next day. And you get interest on your checking account. So, but it's not available for accountants in the QuickBooks Online accountant version. So we don't have access to that yet. You only get it for your clients can get it, but you don't have access.
Yeah, they like to do that.
Before you get too far, we've got Purvi asked a question about the payroll and said, is there a shortcut to add new employees data like export from Excel or anything like that when using QuickBooks Online payroll?
Oh, so trying to bulk enter them in?
When you have a big firm, yeah.
It's a great question and it's a great suggestion. I'm sure they're probably working on it, but no, there isn't. Yeah, that is absolutely everybody who's doing payroll. Please go into the little make a suggestion comment box, and for us, tag it in there because that really would be a great thing. As we're setting up somebody new, you can reach out to Intuit, payroll itself, and you could provide them an Excel spreadsheet, and they have a way to do it from the back end themselves. So if you have a whole bunch, that's probably going to be your best bet is give them that information and they could upload it in for you. Good question. Very good question. All right. So next one here, using QBO, I no longer have the option to make a payment. I only get schedule an online payment or mark paid. I do not use the online to pay bills. How do I turn it off?
I had the same thing when I saw that. I'm like, but I don't want to use the bill pay yet. And yeah, it's there. It's just, you had to go to the drop down, but it's there.
So if I go to my expenses, right? We don't have, well, it should show up here. So take company file as a reminder, everybody. Coming to here.
Purvi said that she didn't know that if she had full service payroll that they could actually send the Excel sheet in. Thank you for the info.
Absolutely.
They're there to help, especially if you're paying for that upper tiered version.
So here we've got the make a payment, right? But I'm not getting.
It's probably because you don't have any bank account hooked up on this file.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. Then I don't know why.
So I've clicked on the pay bills online so we can go to the setup of it, and it's going to take us to some magical world. Here we go.
I didn't have to even do that. I didn't sign up for anything, but it showed up on my client's files where I couldn't, you had to go to the drop down and actually drop the arrow down and then go to save in new. It was trying to make you pay your bill with that payment program, which is Milio.
I know I've seen it in other company files as well, which is interesting that it's not showing up this time, of course, in this company file. I can try.
Picture, you can see on the picture on the slide.
Okay.
I think I went into a file that, yeah, you can see, and you probably can't see it too well, but that's the drop down with the blown out part. And it just says pay your bill online at the bottom over there. And yeah, I could see why you would think that you couldn't, because it was just, that's all it was in green. You didn't realize that if you dropped the drop down arrow, you could get that save and new, save and close was there, and save and schedule a payment, which was the one that was highlighted.
I'm switching over to our other fake company file to see if it will pop up on that one real quick here. Expenses. Vendor sync. All right. Internet's going really slow today. Now this one will, it says schedule payment on the side over there.
Yeah. And then see how it says that? It looks like you'd have no other way to pay it. Like at the bottom, if you're going to pay, like that, like how do I not pay? Yeah, there you go.
So, but I think part of the question actually is, how do I stop it from doing this every time? Because like I want just my save and close there.
I think if you do save and close it will say that the next time. I don't think it's set.
Okay, so if let's
Save and close.
find another bill, I guess we'll go back to this again real quick. That one's paid, of course. So if I create a new bill, oh, come on. And we'll just something here. 200. And let's go save. So if I hit save, that should trigger to where it now pops up right away, right? Schedule online payment, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to shut that off unless, but if you hit save and close and then save and new or something, it should.
So I've got save and close, which at least it didn't default to the other one that time, right? But now we've got this new $200 bill I just put in, which should be at the top. Here we go.
You have to make a payment in the bill upper right corner to mark it as paid. That's what Sue is saying.
So here I can mark as paid, which is kind of cool. So bill payment, mark paid, boom, save and close. I'm gonna hit cancel just so I don't get into that. But it is actually now giving me every single time save and close right away instead of.
So it's just advertisement basically for the service to let you know it was there. But I could see how it would freak people out because it looks like I have to, oh, that's my only option, right?
Yeah, I wonder if we real quickly go into accountant settings, if under payments.
No, that's customer payments. So you'd have to go under advanced.
I'm sorry, expenses, yeah.
Expenses, yeah.
So, nope. All right. Well, let's go on to the next fund. And we've got a couple questions too, it looks like.
Okay, so this one is about QBO in my case. So my case is a legal software. I do have a client in it, obviously can't show it. But what it does, and I'm taking them off of it, but what it does, it's a pretty robust system. It's actually not bad. And it does sync with QuickBooks. Like I said, I'm taking him off of it and putting him on Lean Law, so I don't have any experience with it. But all of these outside programs, they all will sync to QuickBooks, and they'll sync just the data that is inside of that program. So the program is only there to house the IOLTA account. So it's going to show the ins and outs, retainers, and the client being invoiced, and then the movement of the money out of that. So it makes a register, but it's not going to separate it by by matter or case. It will in the app, but not in QuickBooks. It's going to be under one account. And you can work to sort that using the group by button. It's pretty cumbersome to do if you're trying to make sure it all lines up in QuickBooks because you're using bank feeds. That's why I like Lean Law, because Lean Law, I get that whole view in my QuickBooks file as well as in the app. So it's not like hidden and thrown into one big jumbly mess.
Yeah, there is such thing as good syncs and bad syncs, right?
Yes.
So,
and I mean, that program is pretty cool. It has a lot for the attorneys as far as tracking matters and document storage and all the things. Lean Law is just time and billing, but it for syncing with QuickBooks, the only one that is great is Lean Law. I've tried them all, looked at a lot of them. So I shouldn't say all because there's like thousands of them, but the popular ones I've been in, and so far, none of them are even close to what Lean Law does.
cool. Well, we know you're a Lean Law fanatic, so.
I am.
All right, so next question, just a question to see if anyone has input on processing commissions in QBO. For a client paying commissions to a sales rep, QBO doesn't really have a built-in functionality per se to handle this. It looks like from poking around in different forums, YouTube channels, etc., there are some people who use the class field. Another method might be to use the sales rep field in the invoice and then run a report at the end of the month sorted by sales rep, and then calculate the commission using an Excel download. I'm not a fan of using the class field for commission since that field has more valuable uses for the client company, and I don't want to waste it. Also, this happens to be a case where commission is paid to a 1099 contractor, so there's not the added complexity of adding commissions to a payroll check. If you've dealt with this before, feel free to respond with any tips. So one of the ways that we've done commissions in the past where it can be semi-automated is it's using actually a bundle. So this really depends on how many items you have created and how many, so because you don't want to create a different bundle for each item itself.
Right.
But what we would do is create, it was actually for a mortgage broker. We would set up to where inside this big, huge bundle item we had, it would give us everything we needed off of the document that talked about the amount of money they received, how much of the payment from the check was supposed to go to the loan originator versus how much money was supposed to go to someone else. And if you can use a bundle item to basically add in a new item that's a commission payable. And if they have a consistent commission rate all the time is key to this, makes it a lot easier. You can add that bundle piece on where you have like the quantity, the rate. So if it was a 40% commission, you'd put quantity of 0.4, and then you would be able to just type in what the amount is of the sale, and it would be all encompassed into that piece, still hidden from a customer. And you'd be able to then just run reports by sales by item, basically. And that would give you the total amount of the commission that would be owed based off of that. It's a kind of a tricky setup.
That might make a good video. Didn't
Yeah.
you use custom fields too and advanced for something like that?
So that was going to be the next thing I was going to suggest is really anytime if you're doing sales reps and such, instead of using a custom field like a normal text one, that's where I absolutely would suggest going to QuickBooks Online Advanced. And the reason I say it's worth the extra money, if you have to clean up the data, right? So if I always say if you're putting Matt in, it could be MAT. Some people may put it MATT, or they may put MATHEW. And if you have to go into every single invoice or every transaction, clean up that custom field, the time you'll lose because of that it's just not worth it. So with Advanced, you've got the drop downs where you can hard set what the sales rep would be, making sure people select it correctly. And then you also have additional custom fields that if there are different types of commissions, you could even have like a group type. You could use a custom field drop down of the type of sale it is, to then run reports off of that. Because maybe if you've got group A, you get 7% commission, and group B items you get 5% commission. You could play with that as well. It does still require, if you're doing that though, to do at least a calculation, Excel or otherwise.
And Purvi has another question. She said, "Can you show some light on customers, sub-customers, jobs, class, and projects?" I'm not clear on what to use when, which it is confusing, right?
Yeah, and it's a really, really good question. One of the most important things regarding that is going to be the naming convention when you're dealing with these things. So when you have a customer, your customer obviously is your highest level, okay? A customer can have, and they've got their own address, their phone number, all of that information, and even custom fields like in Advance, everything else, the custom fields are unique to that customer. A sub-customer is now going to be, it's also like a job in QuickBooks Desktop, right? The sub-customer is something where you can bill with the parent, but the sub-customer can still have a different address or location to it. You can also have different custom fields in Advance for that aspect with it also. But when you do a project is always attached directly to the customer level that's above it. What that means primarily means no difference of address. So with construction companies or like, specialty construction, if you have sales tax ramifications and you have to ship certain things or charge the tax at that place, you could run into a situation that if you're had a parent customer that you do a lot of different jobs for all over the place, you would get the wrong sales tax rate based off of what the shipping address would be inside the system. Additionally, if you can only, so a project can go let's say this the right way. If you can go customer, sub-customer to project, you can't put a project below a project. And if you've got a sub-customer, you can go a customer, sub-customer with different address, multiple sub-customers, different addresses and projects, but you can't switch them around. It's very stuck once you do that.
I know. I had it happen with a client this week, and she was trying to do a statement, but she had invoiced from the parent, received the payment at the parent level, but it was really, it was just a mess. And it just said you have to stay at the matter level, but stay at the sub customer level and bring the payments in. Now she wanted to only run a statement on the matter or the case, which is the sub customer, and we couldn't make it work because of the way she had brought the payment in.
Yeah, that is a very common challenge. I actually have been putting together a course specifically around projects, and this is one of the most important parts of it that I cover. So when we're done, I'll put the link into the video and for this that people can kind of go check that if they want. Yeah. The other really important thing is I touched base real quickly on it was naming conventions. The way you name your customer versus the way you name a project can make or break you. When you're doing data entry, if you've got T-sheets or something connected and you're trying to choose the right name to select to put the time under, well, if I have Parkway Business Solutions is the parent, right? Mm-hmm. And then my app, let's say I was doing an app after that was started with Parkway. Well, as people are starting to type in Parkway, they can select the wrong thing. Happens all the time. So you want to play with the variation of that. And another cool little trick is the way, again, you name projects. When you're looking at your different project details, this is going slow today. You can actually do like a tab delimited out of this. I usually recommend starting with an alphanumeric something or other. So you can go A, 1, 2, 4, 5. It's something that you would know. Do a pipe on it as well, okay? Project 1. Then you could do electrical. So if you can basically use this kind of like custom fields as to, if you have your whole list of all available projects and they're listed this way, export it to Excel, and then you can do a tab delimited, and you now have like the ability to indirectly sort and filter by these extra columns because you use the pipe as the tab delimited in a sense.
That makes sense.
So probably a little bit more than exactly what they were asking, but there's tons and tons we can do with that. I like projects.
Could tell. You got all excited there. Calm down.
Question about tenant reimbursing landlord for expenses.
Yeah, this is a good one because keep reading.
So here's my scenario. Landlord agrees to pay for landscaping. Tenant hires gardener. Gardener hands invoice to tenant. Tenant, who should have referred invoice to landlord, pays it himself instead.
Bad tenant.
Yes, exactly. How do I handle QB entries for this? I can enter gardener invoice so I can track gardener for 1099. I can cut check to tenant to reimburse him, but this leaves gardener invoice unpaid on books. How do I address this? What do you say?
Now, if they're going to be, first of all, I think they have to talk to the landscaper, maybe get the landscaper to pay back the bad tenant and then pay them directly, because this is the only way you're gonna be able to do 1099 is if you cut the check right out of your firm to be able to do the 1099. If you don't pay them, you can't send them a 1099. So that's the first thing. I mean, if it's, yeah, I mean,
I'm sure ongoing wise, right? So they would, assuming this would be ongoing, because you don't mow the lawn once, trust me.
I just
you would have an expense reimbursement the first time is what would happen. And then you would get it set up to where the gardener is actually billing directly, so you could track that correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if I made an agreement with a tenant, I would pay them back for the landscaping. I mean, just would do it, but yeah.
So basically, I mean, you either take it off the rent the 1 month or expense check going back to them, and then still tag it. That would give you the ability to still tag it as an expense for that property, assuming maybe they even had multiple properties.
It just won't be included. That piece won't be included in the 1099 at all.
Sounds like the person cut the grass himself and just took the money.
It could be.
I could be wrong on that. So next one here, bank corrected a check amount paid by a customer. A customer meant to write a check for $680, but the writing portion she wrote 680. Oh, I've seen this before. 680 over XX. The bank initially accepted the deposit. I matched the transaction and then received a notice that the bank issued a debit to my account in the amount of $79.20, assuming that the check was written for 680 cents. How do I handle this entire mess in QBO? Need to adjust the AR for this amount, and when customer pays the difference, I can apply to her outstanding balance. So is this, did you say this one is in our?
Yeah, inside the other, not in vendor sync, but the QB community
Okay.
live. And I didn't
So,
do the same amounts, but this does happen. It actually happened to one of our clients when we're doing the rebuild, where she didn't add it up right, brought it to the bank. The bank just takes it for whatever the deposit slip says, because it's somebody actually physically going to the bank. And then a few days later, after the bank reconciles it, maybe the next day, all of a sudden you're going to get a notice in the mail saying, hey, your deposit didn't really equal this amount, it equaled this, because she probably just did it on a calculator, didn't put it all in QuickBooks. So we had to make adjustments for that transaction. So if you just go to the bank deposit and go to the most recent couple of deposits, I'll just show where the deposit was put in. And so it'll be a deposit on 8/4 be the first one, will be the deposit that's
on 8/4, okay, so.
Yeah, 8/4, it'll be the most, there's two, 8/4 and 8/6.
Come on. So ports, deposit detail. My goodness. I need more power, Captain. You said you already did the deposit?
Yeah, but I'm wondering if you're in the, I did QB Community Live, I might be in the wrong company. It had it was one that had all your people in it, so I don't know. It's the only one I have access to. And it said QB Community Live with an exclamation point, if that helps.
Okay.
But basically, you don't have to go searching for it. So basically, I put the deposit in the right way and the correct amounts, and then made a line item to take the money out of the bank for the missing amount. So it was understated in my scenario. So I just put a line item in and I wrote, no, bank made an error and it will be corrected. So that the deposit was understated. And then the next time when the bank gave me the money back, I put the next deposit, but I put it in, we use an account called Suspense Deposit. It's a great account for when you don't know where something goes from your client. You're not sticking it in an expense. You're just sticking it where it's still in the income side, but it's not, we just know to look in there to clean that up when we work with our clients, when we get deposits for cash or whatever. We have that happen with immigration firms. They get a lot of cash and then we don't know where to put it. It just says cash, they put it in the bank and then we have to ask them what account. So we stick it in Suspense Deposit. So it's up in the income side and we just make a note. So I made a note to show that the money was miscalculated by the bank and then the adjustment, and then they equal each other out. So it'll just net zero when you flow it through the Suspense Deposit account. That's basically what I did. I don't know what company file I added it to. I'll show you later. I only have access to one, so.
Yeah, well.
You shouldn't have kicked me out.
Should have done the work faster. Okay. And that's how you use the audit log, people. So, yeah, okay, next one. And so duplicate record right after for review on banking when made the direct deposit and issue. What the heck? Sometimes these things make me feel like I'm a really bad reader, I'm telling you. And issue the payroll check on payroll content, whatever. Duplicate record.
I just had to grab it because it says the company's name was Everhottie LLC.
Oh, can't even read that one.
That was just a stumper. I have no clue what that person's asking. But this was an important, because we're all using Zoom, we're living in Zoom. And the other day I turned it on and I'm like, oh, it says, and you always told me if it says update it. So I did. And then you were filling me in on the update things that you can actually blur your whole face out completely and make yourself 20 again.
So to make sure we understand this correctly, I sent you a message saying, hey, Linda, have you updated your Zoom lately? You're like, no, I never update my Zoom. I'm a Mac. Macs are perfect and they just do everything for me. So then with that, right, I explained there's some really cool new functionality inside Zoom. So everybody, if you haven't done it, you want to make sure to update your Zoom once this is done. And you do so by very easily clicking onto your little, when you're logged in, you'll see your little image and you'll see where it goes, basically like settings, and you go to check for updates and it'll do the updates. You can now adjust for low lighting. So if you have an issue, matter of fact, I'll try to just do it real quick here. Um, if you've got a low lighting issue, this will help with the background not look quite as bad. So I'm going to go to manual
Mhm.
and see how everything's getting washed out, or drop it down.
Blur yourself. Let's see what you look like when you get blurred out. Like make your touch up my face even touchier.
And then the touch up appearance, less or more.
I couldn't see where it did much when I played with it, but I did play with it at night in the dark. So,
Wahaha.
oh, look at that! You're like airbrushed.
I'm too sexy for my Zoom. For my Zoom. Something like that. So we just thought that was a pretty cool new feature that you guys will definitely want to do your update. There's a lot of neat stuff that's inside it.
And sometimes update just to make sure your security settings too. That's a big one. So
yeah. Share PowerPoint keynotes as virtual background in beta. I don't know how we get into beta, but I'll find that out.
I think it's right in there. Also, we have another question from Herbie. All right, let's just keep going and then we'll try to hit up that question. Yep. And we do have somebody else that hit us up for a question.
And then so the accountant's toolbox, this was something we recently, I don't know how long this has been around. It may have actually been for a bit of time, that you can come into, let me get into the right area here.
Well, accountant's toolbox has been around, but I did not notice this feature what you were showing me last night. I maybe just blew by it because I said that doesn't apply to me, but.
So prep to tax, when you open this area, the documents, they've been working this documents area, but you now have these different folders that you can, they're actually per account usually, that you can add specifically. You can have the whole tree of different accounts on your chart of accounts basically there and add different files into each one, and get ready for tax time basically. So all your supporting documents is the whole point, which I think is pretty cool. Also will show any of the changes that were made. You can go through, do review and basically review and adjust the different accounts. So your trial balance. I think this is actually pretty neat, the grouping and statements. So if you want to, every once in a while, we'll have a need to actually like adjust around certain accounts into different groups. This gives you that capability. So if you wanted to, this is just not going very fast today. You can reorganize them however you wish. Tax mapping is also really important. This basically gives the option, this is way better than the other file, gives you the option that if you've got different, if your tax professional is using different tax programs, you can group these however you need to basically make it easier to get the tax work done. So again, I'm going up to account tools, prep for tax. And this one was where I saw it first and way more impressive. We did it from the balance sheet. Here we go. So see now here, like this has got a crazy chart of accounts. Now you've got all this stuff here. So you can go, you can put your statements into here, pick something, drop it in. I don't know, whatever that is.
One of our good friends was pretty much.
Yep, Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob involved in making this what it is.
So then you'd be able to see everything that was here. You can download it. You can actually, when it's time to be done, you can export everything, basically update year-end actions, download a zip with all the details. Lock, I'm guessing lock the books. I'm sure that's different than the other one. So this is some pretty neat stuff that would be like, yeah, here you can, I thought this was neat. You're looking at the different form types, right, for the type of business. I'm going to go in and study this more just so I feel like I have a better understanding of how, because I don't do taxes. This is a cool way to kind of teach myself more about it all. I thought so.
It is. That's, and I don't know how many people have noticed it at all because it was just there, and then maybe just didn't go to it because we're like, well, maybe I don't want to go to prep just for taxes. It's not applicable to me.
And then, so the next thing we're going to show everybody is in our group. As you guys saw, we thank you everybody who took the time to answer into the poll. What we came up with is this cool idea. Wave at yourself. Is inside of here to use units. So in QB Community Live, the group, you've got units where Linda and I have already been adding stuff in the past to share knowledge on like how to use Zoom and with Facebook and those kind of details. And we got the idea, what if we take and create a specific unit that when you click in, will have different industries in here. And I have more to add. I didn't want to bombard the group with 20 of these things all at once.
Like graphic.
And the concept is you find the right industry or niche that you would be in, and then we want you to be able to go in and actually put a post on it. So Linda, you did one here, right?
I did.
We thought actually it'd be kind of cool to show you guys, like one of the things you could do is you could use Zoom or you could even use Loom on your company website. So you're recording your face as well, and then do a quick intro, elevator pitch talking about your business with a link back to your own website. And the goal is to give everybody a place to share more about their company. As we build this out, we'll know who's working in what different areas, so you can help refer business back and forth to each other, and really kind of hone in towards a niche.
Yeah.
So
especially because if I get clients, and I told you I'm not taking anybody else but the legal industry. So if I get clients, it's great. I'll be able to put it in there, reach out directly to somebody, and figure out a way to share it to somebody who specializes. That means they know a lot about the industry.
Yeah. So we thought this would be a really, really cool idea, of course. So let's come back here. Oops, I just did that wrong. Wrong one. So now we're pretty close to the end of our week here, Linda, I believe, right?
Yes.
There was one other question, I believe, right?
Oh, yes. So from Kelly, she wanted to know, because I guess today in the 97 and Up group, they discussed bank rules. And she had a question about why would you not use an expense? What's the difference between expenses and checks? And why would you pick one over the other? And what would be the reasoning?
So I think actually on our website, we've got a 3-part article that kind of goes through all of the bank rules and how you can use them and so forth and such. But the biggest thing being choosing between an expense and a check. If it's a check, it's going to register that as a specific check itself when you're doing searches or like searching for transaction type afterwards on reports. There's more finite detail that you can get by taking the time to do it that way. I think I had a better answer you said that you had, right?
Well, I just know that like one of the things that happens is if you're doing 1099s, if you don't have them in as a check.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that one.
Information up, so that's a reason to use a check. So I don't know if it's a check, credit card, use expense.
There's a lot of different transaction types. We talked about this a couple weeks back that we can't even seem to access necessarily the stuff that's being accessed by the back end of QuickBooks. Mm-hmm. But as much as you can, you want to make sure you're picking the right specific pieces you can. But like you said, 1099s, having the check capability there, different reporting, all that stuff comes into play, of course. Yes. And if you ever had to reprint your such too.
You learn the thing about the 1099s is like usually with a client the hard way, like, why isn't it showing up on the reports? Well, that's why, because they use it at expense and it doesn't show up. And it's one of my picky things. If somebody wrote a check, I want to see it as a check in QuickBooks. I want the right type, transaction type to the right thing in QuickBooks. That's all. Simple.
Well, on that note, we are next week. Actually, I don't think I have any major webinars coming up.
Nope.
So Hector, Jacob, and I are going to be doing something pretty quick on the PPP, but I believe that's on the 15th or 18th. I'll find that out. I should know that.
And the following week we have desktop time too. So
yes, that's gonna be cool with Mariette. That'll be a lot of fun. So, as we always say, thank you guys very much for joining us this week. And here's wishing everybody a very successful week.
I know.